like spring outside.
It's lovely, isn't it?
There we go. Okay, we just had a few technical difficulties on this beautiful sunny morning, so we're just going to start a couple of minutes late so that we can make sure that everybody gets on, and then we will get going. So good morning, everybody. In the meantime, we can just enjoy this glorious sunshine. And the time changes this weekend, so one step closer.
It's a sign of spring.
I know, it's awesome. I know we have people doubling up as well. Okay. I have 5 after. I think we can get going. Hello, Kenzie and Kim. Welcome. Good to see you guys again. Okay, so good morning and thank you for joining us on this glorious Friday, sunshine and I'm going to say warmth. Welcome to the third in our series of 4 webinars focused on business rebuilding, which is being offered through our Tourism Reactivation of Industry program. This program enables Tyans to provide support for industry through programs and webinars such as this one, and is part of our partnership with Tourism Nova Scotia. My name is Lynn McDonough Hughes with Tyans, and I am pleased to introduce this morning's session. We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional and unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq First Nation. We do this to reaffirm our commitment to improving our understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. Today's topic, revenue management and sales techniques, is about learning how to maximize revenue and meet the needs of your customers through basic sales techniques that anyone can practice from the front desk to in a hotel to food and beverage operations. Our presenter, if you don't know him by now, is Greg Thompson. I think you all know him. Greg is an energetic speaker with 20 years of industry experience, including operational and managerial roles in several downtown Halifax hotels. He has taught at St. Mary's University and as well at Mount St. Vincent University in tourism and hospitality, all of which make him the ideal facilitator for this series. And I will now pass it over to you, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on a Friday morning. I will tell you, as you read that, I almost thought I should change my bio to say that I only have 15 years of industry experience, so I don't sound so old. Nonetheless, let's start. So as you can see my screen, the topic today is revenue management and sales techniques. This is an overview of what we'll cover. So we'll look at sales. What is it? What are some basics? Yield management essentials and pricing. Look at designing an experience. And finally, some actions to allow it to actually implement change or implement this at your business. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So what is sales? So this may seem very simple, but what I did when coming up with this topic is I went to our good friend Google and typed in what is sales, and I waited to see what happened. As you can appreciate, there were pages and pages and pages of hits and articles that came up, and this is a summary of some of those that I chose from the first 2 pages of the search. So let's go through these points one by one and let's see where it takes us. So as you can see, the first point, selling is about the buyer and filling his or her need. So let's just think about that for a moment. So if a customer comes to your facility, if a visitor comes to Nova Scotia, they are coming for a reason. And if we meet the needs of that reason, they will be happy, they will want to return, and they will have a good experience with your facility. So everyone has a reason. So let's just pretend that everyone on this call, we go for dinner tonight independently at a restaurant somewhere near to where you live. The reason that we go could be completely different. Maybe it's a special occasion, maybe it's a celebration, maybe it's a night out without your children, maybe it's your first time out in a year in person because of the pandemic. So even though we're all going to eat, we can have different reasons or needs while we're going, and we would want to be accommodated accordingly. The next one that you can see, the buyer has choices. So what this really means is the visitor, the customer, the guest, there's always another facility down the street. So we need to appreciate them, and we need to recognize that we're not the only option that they have, and we need to treat it as such. So we need to earn their business, and we need to meet their needs. We can't assume that they'll come or they'll be happy if we don't do a good job. The next one that you can see is there's more to a sale than price. So there's more to a sale than price. So this doesn't mean that things need to be the highest price. This doesn't mean things need to be the lowest price, but people will overlook price if other factors are met in meeting their needs. One thing that I would like to highlight on for a moment is the Hotel Association of Canada does an annual travelers intentions survey. So I haven't seen it for this year because of the pandemic. They may or may not have done it, but I did see this survey for 5 or 6 years in a row, as recently as 2019 pre-pandemic. And they surveyed 2,000 travelers in the country, and they asked them what was their motivation when choosing, a travel experience and choosing individual travel businesses. So if you just think of that for a moment, so the point being is there's more to a sale than price. So price isn't on the top 3 list. So the top 3 list is, number 1 is location. So for a leisure traveler, people want to be within 20 minutes of wherever it is that they want to go. So think of yourself for a minute, think of your business, what's within 20 minutes of you, and how does that help you attract people to your business? So what is convenient? By the way, when I read this survey, and some of you may have seen it already, with the 20 minutes, it didn't differentiate the mode of transportation. So that could be 20 minutes by car, it could be 20 minutes by foot, on a bicycle. It just used the term 20 minutes. And if for some reason you get business travelers want to be within 5 minutes. So first thing is location is the most important thing. So what makes you convenient based on your location? So the second one is access to delicious food and beverage. So people will make choices based on where they can get a delicious meal. So if you're a restaurant, it's certainly much easier. If you're not a restaurant and you're another type of business or attraction, what food and beverage options exist nearby that provide a delicious meal? And I do appreciate when I say the word delicious, there's certainly a lot of interpretations of what that word means, but certainly there's access to food and beverage options is probably a better way to look at that. The final one is access to Wi-Fi. So access to Wi-Fi. So travelers are interested in going to a place that they can use Wi-Fi. So maybe if they're from away, maybe if they're out of country and they don't want to use international roaming data, if they go to your facility, they want to have access to Wi-Fi so that they can upload their pictures, they can go on social media, they can stay up to date with all of their contacts. So thinking about your business for a minute, do you have, what's your location? Do you have access to food and beverage if it's not your business? And do you have Wi-Fi? And also thinking another way. So if someone were to go on your website, does it mention the fact that you have robust website? Or do you have a robust Wi-Fi? Next one that you can see here is demonstrate pride in our company. So when employees are happy, when employees are engaged, which of course could parallel to what we spoke about 2 weeks ago with engagement and caring, but when employees are happy, the customer knows. So if it's an environment of empowerment, an environment of caring, the customer knows. So if we show pride in where we work and we're excited and we're happy, the customer knows, and it makes a big difference. So again, I know I exhausted this a little bit last week, but remember that, like, think of the businesses that you frequent in the last week. How many of them actually, the employees that you interacted with, how many of them actually wanted you to be there and were like excited or happy that you were there? I'm hoping that there was a few, but even if I think of myself in the last day, like I got gas at an Irving station, I got groceries at a Sobeys, and really neither of them were terribly excited that I was there. So the next one that you can see is possess superior product knowledge. So in order to sell correctly and put your best foot forward for your business, what information do people know? Also appreciate that I've done a fair bit of reading, and there's a little bit of leeway with what I'm going to say right now, but most travelers, when they're researching a trip, so if they're coming to Nova Scotia, they're coming to your area, the average traveler goes to 3.1 websites before they make their travel decision. So yeah, I'm not sure what those sites are, but so let's just synthesize this and say the average person goes to 3 websites before they make a decision. One could be novascotia.com, one could be your website, one could be Expedia or something similar. So if for some reason that you interact with people, what do you know that's not on the website? So people can read on the website. So sometimes if they reach out to you, it's because they're looking for clarification or opinion. So if you have superior product knowledge because you've been there, you've lived there, you've been there for 10 years, you've consumed all the meals, you've gone on the tour, you've slept in a room. So what do you know that's not on the website because of that? So that's sales. So that's just a summary of me hitting Google, but I actually found it quite interesting because that seems like a very simple task, but I was pleasantly surprised with what I found. So the next sort of element of sales too is persuasion. So persuasion is convincing or influencing people to do things. So you're trying to encourage them to buy from your facility. So I also found this in that sales Google search, so I thought I would share it. So as you can read there, there's 6 basic principles that govern how we may influence or convince a person. So the first one is liking. So liking really just means, are you able to build rapport with that customer? So if you make a connection, you build rapport, you use their name, they're more apt to trust you and want to, you can encourage them to make choices that are in the favor of your business. The next one is bargaining. So if people perceive they're getting a good deal, then they're more apt to buy. So it doesn't mean they are getting a good deal, but if they perceive that they're getting a good deal. So maybe, for example, you have a daily special, or maybe if they come in non-peak times, they can get a cheaper price. So if people have that option and it's clear to them, they feel better about it. Consistency. So if it's a return visitor, they want to have an experience that's similar to the last time. So I know this is a simple example, but think of Tim Hortons. If you drink a large double-double, does it taste basically the same in all the different locations where you go? Next one, as you can see, is scarcity. So scarcity really is when things are in short supply, people are more enticed or encouraged to do them. So maybe you're close to sold out. Maybe there's a special event. Maybe, there's something interesting going on. So maybe you can create a little pressure by saying, hey, listen, the special event is going on. I wouldn't want you to lose out. You should take advantage now. Next one, social validation. So if I actually wrote this article that I saw, I would just use the term popular. So people can be persuaded because things are popular. Like, how many of you have gone to a restaurant, the menu is fairly robust and you don't feel like reading it, so you might ask the server, what are your 3 favorites? What are the most popular items here? And people could be persuaded based on what's popular. And then the last one is authority. So I like authority too. So this goes back to the previous slide, is if you have superior product knowledge, if your team has superior product knowledge, they will perceive you as an expert and they'll take your advice. So if you come across with pride and knowledge, they'll take your advice because they think that you know, and it will make their vacation that much better. So continuing on. So let's move into the idea of yield management essentials. And as you can see with that gentleman or that person on the teeter-totter, this is a balance of supply and demand. So yield management considers, do prices adjust, or sale conditions adjust based upon supply and demand? So the best example that I learned, so of course, we already talked about that I have 20 years experience. So of course, I'm in my 40s, but the thing where I learned supply and demand was somebody explained this to me in terms of romaine lettuce. So when I was younger, I really ate a lot of Caesar salads. So think of romaine lettuce for a moment. If you buy romaine lettuce in August from a farmer's market, from a farmer who grew it, what does that romaine lettuce cost versus if you buy it in January and it's the winter time and that lettuce is coming from someplace really, really far away? So of course, romaine lettuce is less expensive in the summer because it's abundant. It's more expensive in the winter when it's not. Or another example where I learned that was Walt Disney World. If you go to Walt Disney World at March break, it's quite expensive. But if you go in August, it's not. So yield management looks at pricing based on supply and demand. So let's dig a little deeper. So let's look at pricing types and let's consider ways that businesses set prices. So you can see what those three things are. So the first one is cost-based pricing. The second one is competitive, and the third one is perceived value. So I'll just go through this example. So let's pretend that we all own a shoe store and we sell one type of shoes. So we have a shoe store on the main street wherever you live, and we sell one type of shoes. So if we are doing cost-based pricing, and I'm pulling these figures out of thin air just for emphasis. So let's pretend that we buy shoes wholesale for $50. And if we're using cost-based pricing, we will apply a markup based on what it costs. So let's just say that those shoes, we want to do 100%. So we're going to sell those shoes for $100. So that's cost-based pricing. So let's say we're doing very well. People like our shoes. We're selling lots of shoes. Every time we sell them, we make $50, which helps pay for all of our overhead and our employees, our rent, etc. So let's say that we're doing very well and we get a competitor across the street. So there's a competitor across the street and they sell the identical same shoes. So they sell the same shoes. They also buy them from $50 from the same supplier, and they decide to sell their shoes for $90. So it's the same shoes. They're literally across the street. They have the same location. So if we have competitive-based pricing, how do we react to those shoes? So do we make the price $90 so it's the same? Do we keep it at 100 but try to do a value add? So maybe when you buy your shoes, you get free laces. You can come back for a free shine later. So, or do we drop the price to 85? So how does our price adjust based on competitors? So a lot of this you can consider is based on positioning. So based on where are the competitors and how you compare, the price could be more or less or the same. One of the risks with competitive-based pricing is the fact that if we use the example, the competitor goes 90, we go 80, they go 70, and then all of a sudden no one's making any money. So the last one is perceived value-based pricing. So this is pricing it based on what people think it's worth. So let's just pretend that these shoes are female shoes and there's a bride who is getting married this summer. Their wedding was postponed because of the pandemic. So they have everything ready. They have their dress, they have the venue, they have the flowers, they have the DJ, everything's ready. Invitations are out. The only thing they don't have are the shoes for the bride and for her attendants. So she walks by or they walk by our store, they look in the windows like, those are the shoes that I want. So it's the last detail to complete their wedding. Those are the shoes that they want. So how much are they willing to pay for them? So perceived value, like what is it worth? So they cost us 50, but what is it worth? I would suggest to you that they'll probably pay anything. So they might pay 150 for those shoes. So in a perfect world, perceived value pricing is the way to go, but it gets very, very tricky because everyone has a website, and on the website you need to put a cost. So in a perfect world, we'd use perceived value. Generally speaking, most businesses go somewhere between cost-based and competitive, but in a perfect world, perceived value would be definitely where we would want to go. So looking a little further, so there are also pricing influencers that impact how people perceive price. So this is how people perceive price. So past price. So what did they pay the last time? So if someone's going for a lobster dinner, they go every summer, how much did it cost last year? Or if they're taking a trip, so if they stay at your facility for the first week of August every year, or they go on your tour, they're buying tickets, how much did they pay last year? So that's a benchmark. So if somebody always pays 100 and then all of a sudden you're selling for 80, then all of a sudden their price floor has just fallen. The next thing is periods of high demand. People understand that when there's a special event or when it's busy, it's going to cost more. So it's okay that it costs more. Based on what I've read in some articles, the general gap that people will pay more is like between 30 and 50%. So if somebody's a repeat, guest and the price is going to increase by more than 50%, it could be problematic, but people understand periods of high demand. So it's the same idea as when you go to Walt Disney World at March break, it's going to cost more for your accommodation, your meals and the park ticket than if you go in the middle of hurricane season in September. Next one is cost of similar products. So what have they experienced in the past from competitors? So what have they experienced from the past in competitors? And the last one, of course, is inflation. So inflation in Canada last year was like 4.3%. So what that means in very basic terms. So let's say, for example, you have a tour, or maybe you have an admission or a room or a meal. It's okay that it costs 4.3% more than last year because of inflation. People might not necessarily like it, but they understand it. So people might not like it, but they understand it. So just remember, like you're allowed to have increases. Think of yourself when you go to the grocery store. So like tomatoes cost more this year than they cost last year. We certainly know there's supply chain issues, so people understand of inflation. So based on this, people understand that prices generally move up, but these are reasons that they understand. So if you want to increase your price for a period of high demand or otherwise, just remember that these are benchmarks of how customers frame this. So the next slide, if we look at this, and I did go through this the first session, but this is the price value relationship. So this is whenever someone goes to purchase something, subconsciously they go through this grid. So you can see, so let's pretend we're in algebra and grade 8 again. And so this is the y-axis, this is x. So we're looking at price versus quality. So the first one that we're going to look at that I'll circle here is low quality, low price. And what this means is if something is inexpensive and the quality is average, is it okay or not okay? It's okay. So here's a great example. So I have 3 nephews. I babysat them when they were little kids. I took them to the dollar store because I had them for the afternoon. They all chose a couple random toys and they played with them for the afternoon. Because they're boys and they're rowdy, all of those toys were destroyed within the 3 hours that I had them. So am I okay with that? Yes, I'm very okay with that because it cost me $10 to keep my nephews from being crazy and rowdy for 3 hours. That was value for money for me. If we go opposite that, it's high quality, high price. So high quality, high price. So something's expensive, but it's good quality. Think of the best offering you have in your facility. Think of the best room in your hotel. Think of the best entree on your menu. Think of the most deluxe tour that you have. So is it okay? So absolutely. So absolutely, think of the people that buy Mercedes-Benz. They're expensive, but they're good cars. It doesn't mean I personally could afford one, but it means that it's okay. So as long as people perceive that the quality is good, they're willing to pay. And this can also pivot back to what we spoke about from the Hotel Association. People will pay more if they have a convenient location, if they have access to food and beverage, and they have robust Wi-Fi. So the next one over here is high quality, low price, which I'll circle right here. So that's the same as high quality, but it's on sale. So let's say that you have a sale at your facility. Let's say you have a daily special at your restaurant. It's a little bit cheaper. It's a win for the customer. They're thrilled. So they're getting that same high quality, but it's cheaper. So you also noticed based on here, I skipped one, which is low quality, high price. That's a problem. And the consumer or the customer, the guest, they won't buy. So if for some reason they grid something here, they won't buy. So if anyone shows you price hesitation of any kind, that means that they've gridded here. So if we're going, theoretically, the way to remedy that is we either need to raise the quality or lower the price. So maybe we need to better explain, say, hey, listen, do you realize that the seafood chatter is $25? However, do you realize that it's 60% fish? It's got fresh haddock, it's got fresh lobster, it's got fresh cod. So if you explain what people are getting, they might say, hey, of course, yeah, that's worth $25. Let's go. Or you may say, hey, let me see if I can help you with the price. Let me see if there's a special or something that I can get you a lower price. So I like this a lot because think of yourself going to the grocery store. Like I enjoy avocado toast. So I went to the grocery store last night. I went to Sobeys, as I mentioned to you earlier, and I wanted to get an avocado. And I went through and it was $6 for one. And I grid that as low quality, high price. I gridded as too expensive and I put it back. So I didn't buy any avocado. So guess what? I didn't have avocado toast for breakfast today because I thought the avocados were too expensive. So even if people are searching on the internet, they do this all the time. Think if you online search, you see something that's too expensive, you just hit the X in the corner, then you get on with your day. So you hit the X in the corner, you get on with your day. So here's just a couple of other things. So this is more so for accommodation, but if you're looking at pricing again, you need to have some kind of logic or rationale behind it. So where do the prices come from? Do they make sense? How do they compare with your competitors? The next consideration is rate parity. So if you're showing prices in a number of places, so if you show a price on Facebook, your website, Expedia, maybe somewhere else, are they similar? Next one is restrictions. When you're super busy, you might want to apply restrictions. So maybe, for example, your facility, you're busy every Saturday night, but you're not busy on Friday or Sunday. So maybe you want to make people stay 2 days. You want to make them stay 2 days. So you want to leverage the strength and demand of Saturday by making them stay an extra day on either side. And then the last part, this is very hotel specific, but can you do something to encourage people to book directly with you as opposed to on Expedia so you make more money? So I realize some of you aren't in that lane, but at least it allows you to make more money. So, can you give people a value add? So maybe in the contract with Expedia, you say your website and Expedia will be the same price, but maybe if you book direct, you give them something. Maybe they get free Wi-Fi, maybe they get a better room, maybe they get an amenity, but the cost of those things could be less than whatever percentage it is Booking.com or Expedia takes. So with that, again, just consider there needs to be some logic of where your prices come from. It needs to make sense, and the prices are allowed to increase and have upward mobility in them as long as it makes sense. So as long as it makes sense. So, so go back to that perceived value, like that's a perfect world. Here's just a random little story. And this is a little dated, but there's two cars that are actually the same. One is a Pontiac Matrix, or one is a Pontiac Vibe and a Toyota Matrix. They don't actually make them anymore, but it's just an example. They're a joint venture between General Motors and Toyota. They're designed in the same facility in California. They actually manufacture both cars in the same facility. So they've got a Pontiac Vibe and a Toyota Matrix. They're the same car. The only difference is basically the labeling and the decals. So if you look at the steering wheel, there's a different steering wheel decal with the branding of the company. So either Pontiac or Toyota. So you realize this is an example, and so obviously this isn't going to surprise you because I'm trying to lead you to emphasize a point, but the Toyota costs $4,000 more than the Pontiac for the same vehicle, and Toyota sells 2-to-1 over Pontiac. So the Toyota, even though it costs $4,000 more for the same vehicle made in the same facility, it outsells the other one 2-to-1. So why is that? So that's because people perceive that a Toyota is a better car than General Motors, even though it's the same car. So think of your business for a minute. Is there something that people perceive that you can leverage it to try to make more money? So that's the point, to try to go through this to try to help you make more money. Or, continuing where we are now. So people want free Wi-Fi. So if I went on everyone's website, right now, does it highlight on the homepage that you have robust free Wi-Fi? Because people want it. So if it's a rainy day, they want to stream, or maybe they just want to update stuff on their socials without using their data. So I'm assuming that most of you do have robust Wi-Fi, but do you highlight it because it's something that really matters to people? So moving on. So let's talk about the whole idea of an experience. So what is an experience and what does it mean? So an experience is, it's the total picture. It's the feeling that people get when they go somewhere. When someone comes to Nova Scotia, what are the memories that they have based upon the things that they did? So it's not necessarily that they had a meal, but it's like what makes that meal special. So we also talked a little bit about this as well in the context of caring. So you can create a better experience when people care, when people have pride. So what are you doing to be more than just a meal or a tour or, a place to sleep? So we want to build an experience. So if you think of this as a pyramid, so let's think of this as a continuum that's going from the bottom to the top. So when a traveler comes to Nova Scotia or your area or your region, the first part of their experience is the destination. So what are the things in the destination that they can do, they can experience? So are there attractions? Are there facilities? Is it the weather? Is it the roads? Like, what are the things that they can do? So, is it the sounds, the smells, the senses? What are the things that they can do? So the first part of designing the experience is looking at the destination as a whole. So what are the things that the destination offers? The next sort of part is services and amenities. So what are the specific things that they can do? So if they're making plans, if they're making an activity, what are the things that they can do? And what are the attributes of those things that they can do? So if I go to Peggy's Cove, so if I choose the destination as Peggy's Cove, like what are the services and amenities there? So I know, for example, there's an absolutely glorious new observation deck. So that is there, which can impact the way that people look at it. I know there's also great new washrooms. I know every time I go there, I always get ice cream at Didi's, which is, on the road just outside of the lighthouse on the rocks. But what are the things that are there that can impact the experience that I have? And then the last part of this continuum, of course, is your business. So how do you contribute to this whole thing? So if we're Peggy's Cove, what can I do to contribute to this whole thing? So am I, the gift shop up there, and am I try to have am I selling souvenirs? Am I having, something that's actually super huge in destinations now, which is growing, is travelers are looking for places to take selfies. So do I have a selfie wall? Do I have a location within my facility that promotes for people to take selfies where they can show their Insta life is better as their real life, and they can also promote your business and tag you in it. So if we're creating an experience, we need to look at the destination, the services, and what are the specific things that you can do or your business can do to augment that and make it better. So some of the variables here too, when you're thinking of an experience. So as you can see here, so it's just service versus hospitality. So hospitality is that people smile and they're friendly and they're polite and they're lovely. But what is service? So service is about meeting the needs. Service is about making a difference. Service is about caring. Service is about empowerment. So if you're thinking of the experience that your business can have, we need more than friendly people. I have never come across anyone in Nova Scotia in hospitality who wasn't like super cheerful and friendly and lovely. But how can we pivot? How can we pivot that to show caring and make it better? The next point that you can see there too is how are you unique or special? So if people have an experience, many instances they want unique experiences. So what's unique about you? So what's unique about you? So what are the things that you can do that will make you stand out? So if people want to show on their Instagram story or their Facebook story or their TikTok that they're doing cool stuff, how do you contribute to the cool stuff? So what's special about your restaurant? What's special about your tour? Well, like what pictures should they have? What should they do? What's the, the must-have experiences that people should have? The next point that you can see here too is, can partnering help? So because of the pyramid that I showed you on the previous slide, so you're not flying solo on this. So if people come to Nova Scotia, they're here for a few days, they're here for a week, they're here for a month. So who can you partner with to make sure that the entire experience is great? So who can you partner that makes the entire experience great? I will tell you on a sidebar. So at the moment I work, in addition to teaching, I work for a technology company called Before Check-in, and we sell software to hotels. One of the platforms that we sell is a feedback system, and we do very, very well with casino hotels in the United States. So we have a lot of those hotels that use our feedback system. So the hotels ask people questions the day after they leave. And in many instances, people, have a great experience and the hotel is fine. But what happens, because it's casino and gaming, is that if people had a bad night in the casino and lost all their money, that's all that they remember. So when they fill out the survey for the restaurants in the hotel, they say that it's the worst place in the history of the world because they lost all their money in the casino. So even though you're great, we need to partner with others to think about the whole experience, not just your piece. So the next part, if we're trying to sell an experience, we need to use storytelling. So we need to give examples. So maybe on your website, you need testimonials. Maybe you need, to illustrate, an experience that the various market segments had. So maybe if you're a restaurant and you do anniversary dinners, you do birthday dinners, you do bar mitzvahs, whatever it is you do, like, do you have examples on your website so people can have a feel of what it is? Or can you do so through a video or through a slideshow? So are there ways that you can enhance this? So if you look at the last point too, if you're thinking of experiences and you're trying to sell them, just think of yourself. If you think of YouTube and videos, and I will admit I watch YouTube way too much, but think of the videos, etc., that you watch that go viral. Like, why do they go viral? And so if things go viral, so if you're trying to sell an experience, you're trying to get videos, you're trying to put your best foot forward, what can you do to give yourself a better opportunity to go viral? So could it be that selfie wall? Could it be something interesting? But if you think about it, so look what I put there. So this is my lens. So, but if I think of things that are fun, or that go viral, they're either funny, they emotionally move you, or maybe you learn something. So here's a great example, and I'm not going to dance for you, but think of that video, and it had like 80 million hits of that. I think it's called Gangnam Style. There's a guy named Psy. He's from Asia, and he had that dance. He had this he had that. So why did everybody watch that? Why has that been watched 80 million times? So he doesn't dance any better than me, and he probably doesn't work anymore because he has so much money. But why do people why was that a thing? Because people thought it was funny, they enjoyed it, maybe it hit the right, it hit people's emotions at the right time. It hit people's emotions at the right time. So to continue on to this too, so if we're updating your website for some of this stuff, so here's some things to consider. So with your website, to make this better, what can you do to increase direct bookings? So if people can book for you, like on Expedia, like what can you do to do it direct? So if you're a restaurant, how can you get them to book from your website or via OpenTable, as opposed to some third party where you have to pay fees. Next thing is on your website, do you highlight service? So do you highlight an experience, a service, what makes you stand out? So we also know with this, we need to highlight, convenience of our location, access to food and beverage, and Wi-Fi. So is that highlighted? Next thing, showcase the experience. So what are the things that you can do to, emote people's emotions so that, they're more connected to what you're doing? As we just said on the last slide, try to tell a story. So the story can be words, it can be in videos. Try to tell a story to make people have a connection, to be excited to want to come to your facility. And then the last part of this, of course, is try to make it simple and easy so people can navigate it. Also appreciate a lot of people, if they go to your website, they might be on their phone. So how does it look if people are on their phone? So what information can you have if people are on their phone? I will tell you, there is certainly a power in video, and there's a power, sort of in live streaming. For example, we have a customer at Before Check-In that they're in the Caribbean and they have a beach, and they have like a live cam in a palm tree overlooking the beach. And people just like to look at it to see what's going on the beach and see the waves and just see if it's a nice day or not, just to get an impact and, an understanding of what the weather might be. So think about your website. So here's another thing too, if you're trying to develop a framework for your employees to try to help them to sell better. So you can see here, and of course I like the pictures because it's got like cogs of a wheel. But the first part of this is, if you're selling, how can you connect? So how can you connect? So this is like the persuasion liking principle. So how can you connect with people? So if it's in a restaurant and people are talking to you, do you retain what they're telling you? Are you actually listening, as opposed to they're just talking to you and you might be paying attention, you might not? So how can you connect and build rapport? How can you recognize if they've been loyal? How can you use their name if they tell you? Do they volunteer information that can help you make a connection? The next part of this is identify what people's needs are. So what are their needs? So needs could be, basic details such as like, when are they coming? How many people? Are there any special requests? So like, what are the basics? Are they flexible at all? So maybe your restaurant is sold out on Saturday night, but you have lots of space on Friday. Could they come on Friday? So the wants, so what are the specific emotions that they want to feel? So is it a special occasion? So what is the reason for their visit? So what brings them to your business? So based on that, so we're making a connection. We know the minimum requirements. We know, what emotion we might want to try to emit from them, what we want to understand from them, what's the reason that they're coming. And then next we engage. So based on what they said in the 3 previous points, we make an offer. We try to engage. We say, hey, listen, because you're coming for your honeymoon, I recommend this. You should eat it. You should have this meal. You should be at this table. It looks at the water. It's super quiet. We have wine from the Nova Scotia wine region. We recommend that you get that as well. So, make the offer to make it appealing. What if people have resistance or hesitation, can you walk them through that? So of the what if or the hesitation, that could be, if we go back to the price value relationship, they've grid your offering into high price, low quality. So maybe you need to better explain. It's like, listen, yes, it's expensive, $100 a person, but do you realize you get Nova 7 on the way in? This is for 4 courses. You get our best table. You have a view, whatever the thing may be, and then wrap up is just close the sale. So, convince people that they want to visit, they want to have that meal, they want to stay overnight, they want to go on that tour, they want to go hike this trail. So, connect with them, find out their needs, find out their wants, engage with them as you're trying to sell. Because you're looking for this, may I suggest, and then overcome any hesitations, and then wrap up. And then the last part of this, and this is actually my last slide. So these are some actions that I would just suggest to you if you want to think of this topic and try to embrace it. So I would conduct a pricing review. So I would look at the pricing you have and just see if it makes sense. So have your prices increased? Does it make sense of what the increases are? If it has an increase, should you increase so you make more money? Look at the price value relationship of your key offerings. So if you were your target market or your guest, how would they grid that offering on the price value relationship? Does it fall in the perceived high cost, low quality? And if so, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to better explain it? Next one, differentiate by selling the experience. So try to sell more about connecting with people's emotions. Try to partner with others to say, not only you're getting a meal, this is what you'll experience, or this is what you'll feel while you're here. Update your website if necessary. So if it's missing some of these things, think about changing some of the text. Try to, make it easy to navigate, have more pictures. You can make a video with your phone if you need to update stuff. So try to make it better. Consider your socials too. So what's on Instagram? What's on Facebook? Do you have stories? Do you have videos? And the last part of this as well, as with the other sessions, I'm available for mentorship calls. So if you want to book a call for an hour and go through any of this in more detail and try to apply it to your business, I would love the chance to talk to you, and I would love the opportunity to help you. So without further ado, I'm going to take a breath because I just talked nonstop for 45 minutes.
Thanks very much, Greg. So we'll just open it up if there are any questions from our audience today. There are a lot of great tips here.
I just realized I didn't take a breath in 20 minutes.
Oh, you did well.
I'm sure you figured that I was like rolling.
Oh no, you covered a lot of great tips here.
So really, I almost think with this stuff, if you don't have questions, I almost think just take a day or two and just think about your product, think about what you're offering, think about your location, and just see if any of this stuff needs to be adjusted. Because the hope is this will try to make you more money, which to me is a great thing.
And as we mentioned, there's mentorship opportunities available. If you go away and think that's something that you would be interested in, then Greg is available and we can book you in with him. So I'll just check again, and yeah, no, oh, that's great. Glenn is saying there's a lot of points that they can apply to their tour company. So that's exactly what we want to hear. Well, that's great. So on behalf of Tyans, thanks very much, Greg, for another great webinar. And this has been recorded and we should have it up next week. I'd like to remind all participants, of course, of our Tourism Reactivation of Industry program, which offers business guidance and support through expert advisors like Greg. And please contact any of us here at Tyans, and we will let you know how we can help you. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and the last in the series is taking place in 2 weeks on March 25th. And that is online reputation management. And the webinars will all be posted on our YouTube, Tyans YouTube. So they're not up right now because we have a couple of people on vacation, but they will be up next week. And if you can't find them, just send me an email and I will send the link to you. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the time change. That's one step closer to spring. And we will see you on the 25th. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everybody.